I'm Dave Greenwood, and this is Overcoming Distractions. If you are an adult with ADHD, a busy professional, an entrepreneur, a high achiever, or just need some strategies to navigate your adult ADHD, you're in the right place. Who am I? I'm an entrepreneur with ADHD and the author of 2 books, Overcoming Distractions and Overcoming Burnout. I coach and mentor people just like you, and together we navigate the ups and downs of adult ADHD. From getting out of our own way to helping people just like you thrive in the workplace. That's what I do. Want more info on working with me? Hit overcomingdistractions.com. Ready? Let's get to today's podcast. All right, gang, what's going on? It's Dave. It is another action-packed episode of Overcoming Distractions. And I am glad you're joining us once again. I'm trying to make sure I get these things out on time and not late, and that's what we are going to be talking about today. But before I do so, if you would love to share your positive thoughts with others, you can always click on that little button wherever you are listening to us and give us a review. Tell people how much you love us, love our guests, love the street smart advice that I hope you are getting. And if you want to share the podcast with others, I am eternally grateful. So, hey, sometimes these podcast episodes are just here to remind you of the obvious. At least I think some of these tips are sometimes obvious. Maybe you've heard some of this stuff before. Maybe you've had maybe a little bit of a challenge implementing some of this stuff. Sometimes you need somebody by your side. A lot of people say, Dave, I hear what you're saying, but I just, need some help kind of figuring out how to implement some of this stuff in my life. So, but sometimes we overcomplicate adult ADHD, and we just need to be a little street smart about it. And you've listened to me, you know that that's kind of how we roll here. And we just need to be reminded of some of the basics of being able to thrive as a busy adult with ADHD. So, today's one of those episodes, and we are going to briefly run down a number of tactics to help you reduce being late. I'm not saying you're going to be on time every single time and you're going to miraculously be early for everything, but if you can just kind of minimize being late, then that's a win in my book. So, now, there will be some of you listening that may be a little cynical about this episode. I get it, and the advice. But I'm confident that if you are a cynic about this, then I would advise you to maybe listen a little more carefully and double down. So, because guess what? There's no magic wand for being on time. And if you're looking for that magic wand, you're going to be waiting a very long time. You're going to be looking forever. So now, in the interest of full disclosure, I grew up in a military family, and I never really got the late part of ADHD. In fact, most of the time, we were early for things, and I continued that into adulthood. So, and it's interesting. I was in a discussion once with somebody. I actually think it was at an ADHD conference, and they, and we were talking about being late. And I told them, I said, I'm rarely late, if at all. And they responded, well, then you don't have ADHD. And that's certainly not true. And everybody's ADHD is different, so we need to remember that. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, and that goes for the ADHD brain. So But we don't have to be late. It is one of the hallmarks of ADHD. And just because you have ADHD should not be an excuse for being late. I mean, we shouldn't just say, well, I have ADHD, so I'm late. All right, we can fix that, okay? Or we can at least minimize it. We tell ourselves these stories as adults with ADHD, and we just become to accept that we're going to be late. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can minimize your lateness if you practice just a few basic tactics in your daily life. So, for those of you that are sometimes late or habitually late, let's just run through some quick strategies that you can implement to be more on time in your business, in your work, at home, picking up the kids, what have you. So, all right, so let's start. And this is where the cynicism might start for some people, but just hang on for just a few more minutes. Number one way to minimize being late is to use those alarms. And these alarms that we set are not just for waking up, all right? We should be able to implement these for different stages of your daily routine. If you're late for meetings, if you're late for client commitments, if whatever, if you're late for work, I think setting the appropriate alarms can be helpful, and it can be a reminder that the clock is ticking, and sometimes we just need that. And I get it. All right, if the cynicism people are still listening, like you've never been told to set an alarm or a timer. I totally get that. But guess what? You've been told and you're still late. So how's that working out for you? All right, we need to implement the alarms at the proper times and in the proper way to actually get what we need to out of those alarms. For some of us, we just need to alarm the shit out of our life, okay? And that is okay. It's all right. So alarms can really work in your favor if you develop the habit and stick with it, okay? Set an alarm before you have to leave in the morning. Use the reminder feature in your scheduling systems like Outlook. Experiment with the time needed as a reminder. So for example, if you're using like a Microsoft Office or and you're using reminders, experiment with like 15, 30, 60 minutes, whatever it may be. You don't have to stick with the standard, time that the software puts in there. So experiment with it. It will work. You can set recurring alarms, say on your iPhone or your other device. And, you set an alarm for getting up in the morning. Most of you, I think, can get out of bed. Maybe you hit the snooze button once or twice. You can do it for other parts of the day. So if you're always late for something, you just need to set an alarm. And there are so many ways you can do this. If you're a busy professional and you may be late for meetings or what have you, say you have an Apple Watch, you can quietly set an alarm that nobody hears. It'll just pulse on your wrist. So think a little bit about how you can set these alarms. Things like this, like transitions in your day or maybe leaving a meeting on time, those types of things. They will work, and you need to set up those guardrails. And one of those guardrails as an adult with ADHD is setting alarms. I use this for all kinds of things. I use it around the house if I have to come back to something in 10 minutes or what have you, because I will forget. Now, those that are chuckling about the advice regarding setting alarms and say it doesn't work, I will say this, and this is the tough love part of the segment. I would say that you're not respecting the alarm and the urgency of it, and I just want to keep it real here. So, do your best to give it a try if you are habitually late. There is a way out. Next, prepare the night before. Lay your clothes out, pack your bag, make a to-do list the night before. This can save you even like 5 minutes, which can, we know as adults with ADHD, our life can get off track in 5 minutes, all right? Have your breakfast ready in advance and put the coffee machine on automatic. I mean, I got to tell you, this is ingrained now in my DNA and the other parts of the brain where like things get seared in. Is I got to tell you, right before I go to bed, I make the coffee. I set it up and I have it go off. So it goes off like 15 minutes before I get up. So there's no waiting. By the time I put my feet on the floor, it is very, very small amount of time before I get the coffee in me. So make the kids' lunches the night before. Charge everything. Charge your phones, your other devices you need, your laptop for work, what have you. And I can tell you, the less that you have to do in the morning, the less you'll be late. Getting ready the night before makes, it actually takes less time than you think it will. So put in a few extra minutes and get the day off on the right track. In other words, put your mornings on autopilot as much as you can. Next, prioritize tasks. Okay, what does this have to do with being late? Okay, identify your more crucial tasks in your morning routine and focus on those first. Maybe just lock it down. These are the things that need to get done in the morning, and no more and no less. If you're running late, at least you have those essentials covered, right? Many of us sit down at our desks and try to do everything at once, and it's a good practice to select those priorities in advance so you have a game plan. And again, what does this have to do with being late? Running around and trying to deliver something to your boss or your client at the last minute is only going to make you late for the next thing. So that's why a lot of these things, when it comes to busy professionals with ADHD, a lot of these things are linked together. All right. Next, something that I know some of you might not have done at various times of the year is account for that, transportation time, commuting time, what have you. And again, whether you're driving, you're taking a bus, you're walking, you got to factor in that time to get from point A to point B, whether it's your house to work or whether it's from your office to a client meeting. And don't just focus on your, the activity at the destination. And, here's another example, which many people I've talked to didn't factor in, is at least here in the United States, school starts at the end of the summer. That means more cars on the road. It means school buses. It means longer commutes. And you got to take these factors into consideration. So the other thing, just watch the traffic before you leave the house, or check the traffic on your phone. Adjust off-site meeting times so you're not getting there first thing in the morning, if you can do it. So, if you got to be somewhere first thing in the morning and you're fighting traffic, you might be late. Maybe suggest other times to people that you're meeting so the traffic has a chance to thin out wherever you are. So, all right. Next, you can practice a little bit of mindfulness. And what I mean by this is I'm not talking about meditation. I'm talking about being present in the moment and minimizing those distractions. And maybe that's focus time. You could call it that as well, but it's easy to lose track of time when you're multitasking or you're getting lost. And my friend Chris Burlow, who you've heard on the podcast, he says, keep the main thing the main thing. And that means when you're working too. So when we're trying to do a bunch of things all at once, we are certainly going to lose track of that time because we ultimately never get anything done. We get in a little bit of panic mode. We try and finish up, and then we are late. So instead of multitasking, which is something we need to try not to do, stick to that single task. Set those priorities. And don't forget to set that alarm if you've got a commitment coming up. And that's right. Set another alarm. All right. Let's see. Saying no is something that ADHDers, I think, should live by. So if you tend to overcommit, practice saying no to additional tasks or invitations that might throw off your schedule. And this could be something as simple as hanging out and chatting after a meeting. If you need to be somewhere, then you need to say no. So, for example, somebody in a meeting, hey, can I grab you for a few minutes? I mean, that can get out of control, and then you're only going to be late. So If you have another meeting or another commitment and you sit there and you chat and you lose track of time, guess what? You're going to be late. Here's the other thing. Coworker comes in your office, starts talking, and you don't say no, you'll be late in getting home. Then the kids are hungry. Then the family is upset, and you get the point. So you need to be somewhere. Someone is interfering with your time. Politely say no. All right, that is it. Critics come at me about the timer and the alarm, but I think if you stick to the alarm and you respect the alarm and you respect your commitment to move on when that alarm goes off, all these other things are going to at least help you minimize your lateness as a busy adult with ADHD. All right, gang, that's it. If you want to check out a possible coaching mentorship situation with me, you need a little more help implementing certain things, please reach out to me at overcomingdistractions.com. Click that button that says book a 15-minute call. We'll chat on Zoom and let's see if we're a good fit. All right, overcomingdistractions.com, and I'll catch you next time.